Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interview. Today, we're interviewing Kristin, who is a 911 dispatcher slash call taker. Would you like to give a short introduction about yourself?
Thank you. So my name is Kristin Earhart. I am with San Jose Fire Department in our communications division. We are the ones who take 911 calls and process calls for fire and medical emergencies. I've been here almost 8 years, and I'm actually a senior, so one of the supervisors. And currently in our training department. So I oversee our new hires and our academies and get to teach all of our brand new dispatchers. And absolutely love, born and raised in San Jose, love working for the department.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, the first question I would like to ask you is what are the goals of this career to help students better understand what they would be doing as a dispatcher?
Good question. For San Jose Fire Communications, so we process calls for fire and medical emergencies. So our goal is to help mitigate and respond to fire and medical emergencies for the city of San Jose for a variety of different types of callers and emergencies. So we prioritize our calls the fire department prioritizes based on the protection of life and then property and then the environment. So in that order. And so depending on what the emergency is, we'll use those priorities to process those calls.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, to expand on that a little, on a
Mm-hmm.
typical day, what does a 911 communications personnel do? And could you talk about both call takers and dispatchers?
Absolutely. First, I want to say so when you call 911, let's say you're calling 911 in the city of San Jose, you're first actually going to get a police dispatcher, so a law enforcement dispatcher or a CHP. And then if it's fire or medical, they're going to transfer it to my communications center. And we have call takers and we have dispatchers. We're trained to do both. So when you call 911, you get that transferred to a call taker. We will take that fire or medical emergency and we use protocols. So there are international protocols, and we're actually certified similar to how like an EMT, emergency medical technician, we are emergency medical dispatchers or EMDs, and then we are also emergency fire dispatchers, EFDs. And so all of our dispatchers are certified in those protocols, and we use a series of questions based on whatever the caller calls with. And then we go through a series of questions and we can provide instructions for CPR, for delivering a baby, for somebody who's choking. We can also provide instructions for helping you out to get out of a burning building or how to best survive that type of situation. And at the same time, on the other side of the room, in the same room, are our dispatchers. And so we'll create a call in our computer aided dispatch program, so the software. And it's kind of like social media. Our coworkers on the other side can see what we post, right? They can see the call and then they'll send the responders, so the fire engines that you see out and about, to those calls. And so they'll be the ones talking to the firefighters on the other side. If you ever see a firefighter with the mic on their shoulder, the dispatcher is the one talking to them on the other side of that radio. So a lot of those things are happening at the same time. So the person you're talking to on the phone during 911 might not be the same person that's dispatching. And so sometimes the public doesn't understand that, and they think we're talking to them and it's delaying the help, but really we're helping them while the firefighters are driving there.
Yep. Thank you for covering both
Mhm.
call takers and dispatchers because when we talk about 911, people only think about call takers, not
Yeah.
dispatchers.
And the nice thing, just to follow up on that, is we have a typical day, you might be a call taking all day one day, and then the next day on the radio one day. So your week is broken up, and then we have some positions where you're giving everyone breaks, so even your day is broken up, and so you kind of have that variety, which a lot of people like in the job. It's not just doing one thing all the time.
Hmm. Okay. And the next question
Mhm.
kind of relates to the shifts. So, how long are each shifts with and without overtime?
Okay, good question. Our shifts, we work a 980 schedule, which means that one of our weeks is going to have a 5-day work week, and then one of our weeks is going to have a 4-day work week. And we typically work 9 hours on regular time, and then 1 8-hour day. So that's what that 980 means. And then we can work up to 14 hours a day of overtime. So there is mandatory overtime we have to keep our staffing levels, right? So we do have mandatory overtime, and it's up to 14 hours a day.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And how many call takers are working at the same time during and pre-COVID?
So we did not adjust our staffing too much during COVID. We that brings up a good point, right? We're essential workers, so we've been going to work this entire time. And we did drop down our staffing at one point, but most of the time it stays the same. So we have a total of 5 people, 5 dispatchers working in the room. So that could be call takers or dispatchers, and then 1 senior like myself. So 6 people total at any given time. And it's broken down. So typically 2 call takers, 2 radio dispatchers, and then 1 person doing those breaks that I mentioned before.
Okay.
So you could have 2 to 3 call takers for the city at any given time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What drew you to this job, and how did you get into this job?
So I think this job, most people don't grow up saying they want to be a 911 dispatcher. I think it's growing because I think people are getting more awareness of this job. And I can honestly say it's not a job that I thought of when I first thought of a career. But I ended up finding it on Craigslist out of all places. And I'm so glad I did. And I met the minimum requirements, and I remember thinking, oh, that's good pay. That seems like a good job. And as I made it through the process and the testing process, I was like, I absolutely wanted this. And so I think I was drawn to it because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help serve the city that I grew up in. My family has always worked in mental health and crisis work. And so I think it just kind of naturally came to me that way. But I can honestly say, I think dispatchers come from all sorts of different walks of life. We occasionally do get that rare gem who wants to be a dispatcher and has wanted to since childhood, but variety of backgrounds.
Definitely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What would make a candidate a good fit for this career?
Okay, so definitely somebody who is really good at multitasking. So as a dispatcher, I mentioned we give instructions, right? So you might be saying something over the phone, reading something different on your computer screen, and typing something different on your computer screen. So that ability to multitask is really big. And some people really like that, right? It's kind of can be fast paced and there's that adrenaline element to it. Definitely somebody who's adaptable. There's a lot of changes in our career, as you mentioned earlier with COVID. We did have to make a lot of changes in terms of how we process calls, what our room actually looks like. And then our job also is just technology is changing all the time. And so we just got text to 911, there's video coming. So there's always changes. And so someone who's adaptable and willing to change and willing to learn and grow. Definitely somebody with having a sense of humor, humility. You're going to be working, and good interpersonal skills. You're going to be working in a room with, like I said, 5 other people. It's a small room, and being able to communicate well and to make sure that emergencies are addressed. So there's a lot of skills, but I would say definitely multitasking, adaptability to change, and interpersonal skills.
Yeah, and I think you guys upgrade your technology where you have a robot dispatching now, not a
We
voice.
do. Yeah, that was a big change for us in the COVID during the pandemic. We had upgraded, and so her name is Samantha, and we do. She kind of sounds like Siri, but she dispatches for us as well. So it's kind of like having another partner on the radio, and so learning to change how we dispatched was a big thing for us.
Okay. How has this career changed you as a person? Has it grown a new trait in you or expanded feelings you previously had?
Definitely. So kind of as I mentioned, remember I said I didn't even plan on coming into this. And even as I went through the hiring process, wanting it more and more, I think it's definitely made me a better communicator in my entire life, because I now, you have to communicate quickly and effectively as a dispatcher to get things done. And so kind of learning how to accomplish a goal or accomplish a task quickly and effectively. So communication, I think it's definitely made me more empathetic. I already was kind of a natural helper, but just having empathy for that person that you're helping over the phone, and being able to display empathy without having someone see that you are caring about their emergency. And so that was a change. I think overall just made me care more about the city that I grew up in. I'm passionate about helping people more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of any downsides to this career or regrets this career has caused you?
I think that sometimes the downside can be that we mentioned that mandatory overtime. So there are going to be times 911 doesn't close, right? It doesn't close for your birthday. It doesn't close for Christmas or your friend's birthday or holidays. And so sometimes there are things where you're going to have to shift maybe some celebrations. So I have children myself. And so for me, we celebrate Christmas maybe the day before, or we celebrate Thanksgiving, the day before, whenever we can. So I think you can make it work for your life, but maybe it's your friend's birthday and you want to go out, and now you have to stay because one of your coworkers called in sick. And so there is that element. But I think what helps is if you communicate that to your people, your family and your friends, and just be transparent with them. There's going to be times where you're going to have to work. But on the other side of that, we really make our celebration. So if you were working on your birthday, we are going to bring in food and make it that fire department family element, and really celebrate. We celebrate holidays together. And then we also really try to help each other out. So maybe you don't regularly have Friday off, but you need a Friday off. Your coworker will most likely help you out because they understand what shift work is. And then the other thing is it is shift works, right? So there are going to be times where you're working in the middle of the night or working on weekends. And so just remember, it is a 24-hour operation.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How do promotions work for this career in terms of seniority levels within the workplace, and how do these levels affect your work experience?
Good. So those are there's two things there. So I'm going to go back to that seniority part first. So there is seniority in this job. There's a big thing. And so just in terms of how we pick our shifts, our breaks, lots of things are seniority based. So that's just based on levels of service or years of service in your job. And so that isn't promotion wise. And then promotions. So I promoted to senior probably fairly early on. So within 3 to 4 years of being here, I was able to promote to the next level. And then within my job classification right now, like I talked about, I'm in the training department. So now I have an opportunity to step outside our control room. I can still help, and I do help with overtime, but I'm learning how to teach adults. I'm learning how to do all sorts of different other skills beyond just being that of a dispatcher. We have other opportunities where people go and work with technology and work behind the scenes with our software. And it's still a dispatcher who's doing that, a senior dispatcher, but they get to grow their skills. Maybe they have some interests. Then above me, we have a supervisor position. So we have 3 supervisors that I could promote to next time. And then we have a comm manager. So there's a lot of opportunity for lateral growth and then also moving up.
And how does one get started in this career? Are there certain credentials or experience that must be met before qualifying for this job?
Yeah, so I think one really awesome benefit of our job is I think it's really good pay for not a lot of experience required. And so it's going to be 3 years of customer contact. And so that can be prior to this, I used to work in restaurant retail. People worked at Starbucks. So any of those jobs that you maybe even have in high school, right? That you're working with the general public. And that's because that's who calls 911. So we're looking for people who know how to work with a variety. It could be because we get elderly callers, we get limited English speaking callers, we get callers with different mental capacities, child callers. So how you communicate, someone who knows how to work with just the general public. So that's 3 years of customer contact experience, or 1 year working in like a similar kind of a call center or dispatch type center. And then high school diploma or equivalent, so GED or proficiency certificate. And that's it, and 18 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty minimal requirements for some really good pay, I think. And that's because we do have a paid training program.
All right. And how does training work for someone who newly joins?
Mm-hmm. So we have a paid training program, which is a pretty robust program, right? So being a 911 dispatcher, it's a big job. It's a big responsibility. So our training is pretty intense. And I am currently the instructor. And so someone coming into this job would work with me. I love being the instructor. So when you come into this job, the first 8 weeks are going to be in a classroom type environment. It's our academy. And so usually we'll hire on a group of people and they'll go through an academy together where they learn how to be a call taker. So they'll get that EMD and EFD certificate that I talked about before. They will learn how to talk to different types of callers, how to prioritize emergencies. And so that one's all focused on call taking. So there's weekly tests and there are finals. So you have to progress through the program. And then you go into what we call our CTO, our Communications Training Officer part of the training. And so that's where you're plugged in the control room, taking live 911 calls with a trainer next to you. And then they slowly move away from you as you progress. So they give you feedback all the time on every call and what you're doing and helping you to grow, right? Because you need to know if you're doing CPR instructions wrong, you need to know that. So kind of just being able to receive that frequent feedback is really important for the job. So you do that for 3 months, and then you'll have about a month solo as a call taker. And again, that was all focused on call taking. Then we bring them back into a radio academy, so back into that classroom environment, and that one's 4 weeks. And same thing, you learn how to dispatch units to calls, how to talk to them on the radio, how to prioritize events, and then it's 4 weeks, weekly tests, there's finals, and then you go out for 4 months of that CTO training again. So with a trainer on the radio, dispatching calls. So all in all, it's about a year, it's about 10 to 12 months of training. And then after that, it's a year of probation. So about 2 years till you're off probation, signed off dispatcher. And it is because it's an important job, but that's why it's the paid training, because it's a full time going back to school.
Thank you. And so that concludes the end of the list of questions I have for you. Do you have any remarks that you want to tell people who are watching this video in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I wish I had gotten into this career a little bit sooner, just because it is a great job that I think a lot of people don't know about or think about, right? We all see firefighters out there and we forget that there's those people behind the scenes. And so I think it is an excellent career. Like I said, excellent pay for not a lot of requirements in the training. And it's something you can take anywhere. 911 is not going away, right? So as much as we want to keep all of our dispatchers here, but if life happens and if somebody was going to move to another part of the country, another city, those are skills that you can take anywhere. And so you take that training with you and those certifications with you. And so that's very valuable, especially coming into a career. And then just if you are interested in this job, one of the things I would say is to help prepare yourself. I know that, Stephen, you mentioned that you like Pulse Point. So there's that Pulse Point app where you can actually hear dispatchers and listen to dispatchers from all over. It's not just San Jose. You can hear from New York and all sorts of different places. And I think that's really helpful. And then talking to people on the phone. So I think we are in an age where we like to text. I know I like to text all the time. And so remembering how to have a phone conversation. So I always tell people, if they're interested in this job, maybe just decide to call your friend once a day, or remember how to talk on the phone. And then typing. We have so much touch screen stuff now and texting. So typing is one too. So those are the kind of things that I think if you could just practice early on. But research it. There's so much stuff out there about dispatching. And if anyone's interested, just, Googling, there's a great amount of information out there.
Great. Thank you, Kristin.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Oh,
those
thank
watching
you.
our video, that concludes our 911 interview with Kristin. So if you have any questions, we will put the San Jose's government email for you guys to contact them if you have any questions. And thank you for watching.
Okay, thank you.